And then, how many people need a headset for the translation to Portuguese? Please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, anyone? 4. From Portuguese to English, correct. So, 5 headsets? Yes. 5 headsets, okay. I'm gonna ask the headsets to be brought in. And I just would like you to, I would like to ask you to please help us in keeping the bathrooms clean, okay? After these first hours, it was already lots of paper on the floor, and sometimes we kind of maybe in a hurry to get back to the lecture and then flush the toilets. And the reason I'm asking that is because the owner of the building is very strict, and we have had problems in the past because our public meetings on Tuesdays, we usually have close to 100 people in here. And so now we work very hard to make sure that we don't leave any paper on the floor or anything like that. So please, please help us in keeping it clean, okay? Another announcement that I have is today, after here, we have a special event for Fraternity Without Borders at the Miami Gallery, Art Brazil 2016. It is an event to help this absolutely wonderful project that helps to children and families in Africa. And Andrei is here. He's one of the doctors who travels and provides care to the children. The event it starts at 4:30. It's on 8690 Biscayne Boulevard. Some of us will be going right after, so you can just join us and participate of this event, okay? I'm sorry? We're just opening the presentation. Okay, and now we are ready to go. So I am honored and happy to, we're not going to do the headsets. All right. So unfortunately we're not able to do the headsets, so it's your chance to learn Portuguese right now. No. We'll have the translation right here. So Andrei, we're going to do it concurrently. Okay, so you're going to speak and she's going to speak. Okay? We have 1 hour for it.
So I'm going to try to do it in English.
Okay, he's going to try to do it in English, and then we'll help if you know, something doesn't come across. I love you.
All of you help me.
Oh, we all help you. Yes, we all help you. And an American mentor is, I see, right next to you right now. So don't worry about a thing, because it's just gonna go through like very, you know, nicely. But this is Dr. Andrei Moreira. He is president of the Spiritism Medical Association in Minas Gerais, state of Minas Gerais in Brazil. He has this book, which is an outstanding book, among many other books, called Homosexuality Under the Light of the Immortal Spirit. We have in Portuguese and in English. And here, he addresses many topics, including the topic of gender, sexual orientation, transsexuals, transvestites, bisexuality, many topics that we are addressing today. So I highly recommend, if you want to take a copy, we have it for sale here today. Okay, so welcome and thank you for being so courageous.
So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So things have changed, and now I have to adapt myself. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Suzana for organizing this amazing seminar and to give us the opportunity to discuss such an important topic about gender and about sexuality. These are not common in our Spiritism movement, to speak so openly about it and to be so courageous to discuss this and to share the specific personal experience. And one first thing that I want to tell you is, Suzana, I love to go to Banana Republic with you. I love, yes, that's true. We go shopping together, and it's awesome. So, I'm gonna tell you about transgender and Spiritism, which is a very important thing to get to know. For me, to tell about homosexuality from the viewpoint of the immortal spirit was quite easy, because as a homosexual, I have been going through all this experience and I have lived and passed by all this process to accept myself and to deal with the idea that homosexuality is something acceptable from a viewpoint of the immortal spirit, to leave homophobia and to accept myself and this idea from the immortal perspective. But when I think about transgender, it was a challenge for me, and I had to up-to-date my definitions about it and my ideas and my concerns about gender and so on. I realized that even inside of the LGBTQI movement, there's a lot of misunderstanding about this topic. Many homosexuals does not understand what a transgender means, and not even what a queer means, which is a new concept I'm gonna share with you. I think that the majority of you have never heard about it. And so this is something that we need to discuss. So I'm gonna start by sharing with you this image and telling a little bit about Jesus. Jesus was a very courageous man, and this passage in particularly was a deconstruction about gender. Because of that, in that time, the Jewish did not talk with the Samaritans. Those who were from other countries does not talk with others from other part. Men did not talk with women in public. Women are not considered something important and has no space in that community to share ideas, to talk about themselves and to discuss religious or important things. But Jesus go to the Samaritan on the well and had a very good conversation with her. Actually, at that point, she was astonished because he, as a man and as a Jewish, talked to her in public without any concern, without fear, without anything. And actually, what he did at that point, at that time, was to give her importance. It was to consider her feelings and her identity. And so he discussed with her about life, about her life, and actually what he did at that point was to give to a woman space in his community, in his work. So this was considered very outrageous for that community, for that society at that point. Jesus did not receive the cross without a purpose. He received the cross because he deserved it. He was, at that point, very progressive. He discussed many topics and many things at that time. So this was one of it. And so when we nowadays start to discuss gender and we start to think about these topics, we have him as our reference and as our guide, as always. You know? So, transgender people are considered in different ways in accordance of each culture. So Sheri has already told us about it. There's some culture where the transgender people are considered sacred, And so they have a very powerful place in that society. For example, in Indonesia there are 5 genders, in Samoa Island, the Fonfafines, the Hajaras in India, they are considered at the same time sacred and excluded from society. It's a very controversial point. For example, in India society, they give blessings for the marriages and for their new births, but they are excluded from society, they are prostitutes, and they are, in a point, considered sacred, in another point, excluded from social rights, for example. But in other countries, as I told in my book, Homosexuality, there's a box about it, some religious leaders, they have to be transsexuals or trans people. So it depends on the culture, things are considered differently. So I had to study to give this presentation to you. And thanks God I bought all these books. I did not read all of them, but this one, it's one that you must know, it's a must-read book, Trans Body, Trans Selves. And there's a lot of definitions on the first chapter that help us to understand the whole new concepts. So it's a resource for the transgender community and also for all of us to understand. When we talk about the trans community, we have first of all to talk about transphobia. Transphobia is the fear of the difference expressed in the trans conditions. So this goes from the exclusion of affection from family, from society, from school, to the aggressive points that we see every day in our media towards people from this community. So, unfortunately, these are all true pictures. This one just happened in Brazil last week, and this trans woman was attacked by 3 guys on the street, and they tried to kill her only because she was trans, because they started to make jokes with them, and when she did not accept it, so they became aggressive, as always happened with the trans community. This was another situation. It's very common. So this was a very provocative thing that happened in Brazil Carnival, Brazil Gay Pride. And this is a trans woman that used the cross to make a protest against homophobia, transphobia, and interphobia. And this was considered very provocative because of the religious groups in Brazil. They have a lot of power. But you know, Brazil is one of the most aggressive power against trans community and against homosexuals. In Brazil, each 26 hours, a member of the LGBTQE community is murdered by homophobia and transphobia. And this is something that people does not take into account in a level that should be taken, because all of us are part of this moderate. When we make jokes in our society, when we are gender binaries, when we take things so strongly to separate, to exclude, we are part of this modern in our society. We are those who are sustaining this aggression and this situation. So we must think about it, because machismo, I don't know in English if this is the term.
Machismo. Like macho.
Yes, machismo, which is a sexism. It's the idea that the man has power and rights, and the women and all that is close to women need to be excluded or dismissed. Yeah, exactly. So this has created a lot of problems in our society. So what are those who are most aggressed by sexism? Are those who have this gender who question the gender roles, the gender establishment. So we have the travestites, we have the transsexuals, we have the homosexuals that look like women. They are the most aggressive in our society because people do not accept this gender question. They feel fear if he or she is showing a different concept of gender, so my gender is in danger. If you allow his family or their family to exist, so my family is in danger. So these are false beliefs that people sustained in our society and that sustain homophobia and transphobia and all this murder and all these aggressions. So let's make some definitions. Transgender. In this book, Holiday Simon says that there's no one way to be transgender. As transgender and gender non-conforming people, trans people, we have many ways of understanding our gender identity, our inner sense of being male, female, both or neither. Some of us were born knowing that something was different about us. Others of us, slowly over time, began to feel that we were not our full selves in the gender roles we have been given. So the trans community is made by not only transsexuals, by all the people that are trans, that are not cis. Cis are those who are conformed with the same gender, the same sexual biological gender they have. There's a synchrony between the psych condition and the biological condition. The trans community are made by people who are not conformed by that. They have a different self-perceptions of their gender, and there's not conformed with that biological sex. That means the transsexual, the intersex, and the queers. People that do not feel that they are female or male, they feel they are both, or they feel they are neither. They have different perceptions of their gender. So transgender does not mean only the transsexuals, but this whole community of people that do not feel they are the gender, that do not play the role given by the biological gender. So that's the point about identity. Identity is something that people feel they are. When we look at the mirror, we feel that we are something. We feel that we are male, female, or people think that they are both or neither, which is the different concept that we are studying today. So this is the queer concept. Those who do not fit into this binary system, this binary identity, male or female. So queer is a term that's being reclaimed by many LGBTI people, and it is often used as an umbrella term for anyone who is not cisgender and heterosexual. Others of us use it as a political term that implies being radical and transgressive, separating ourselves from others LGBTI groups that seeks more traditional forms of acceptance. So that's the concept about queer. Those people who are not conformed not only to their biological gender, but also to the roles that we play genders in our daily society. For example, those homosexuals that is conformed to the normative system of heterosexuality or homosexuality, they are not identified, for example, as queers. But those who are more transgressive and more radical, and this does not mean any negative thing, just a characterization of behavior. So this is the queer definition. Am I clear? Mm-hmm. Okay. So we have to consider what is the concept of gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is the suffering of not feeling that you belong to that sex, that biological sex that you are in, or you're not conformed to that role of that biological sex that you have. So transsexual people have a very strong gender dysphoria. It's a man who feel, it's a biological man that feel that she is woman. It's a biological woman that think that he is a man. And the sex is not something given by biological body, but for the psychic. So, travestites have gender dysphoria, transsexuals have gender dysphoria, intersex can have gender dysphoria. And we have had some changes in the psychiatric definitions about this situation. I'm gonna share with you. So, the intersex people I'm gonna tell later. The transvestites are those who use clothes that are not conformed to that gender. And I just got to know that these, for example, here in United States, is a term it's trying not to be used, and it's considered as a bad term as terms has evolved and has changed, because it linked to a prejudice that we had in our society, and also to the psychiatric definition that is still a very close time, is still considered the transvestites as a psychiatric disorder. Mm-hmm. So here we have, but here I want to use the psychological definition. Those who are not conforming to the role of that gender and use clothes or expression that is shown to be of the. It seems to be the other gender. The transsexual are those who think, as you can see here in this picture, those who feel that they are not from their biological sex, they had another psychic sex. And this is different from sexual orientation, because here we are talking about identity, to feel or to understand yourself as male, female, both or neither. But sexual orientation are something that the sexual or affective attraction that you feel. So to who you are, you orientate your sexual and affective attraction. You know, it's different from identity. So, for example, a transsexual can be hetero, homo, or bisexual, because transsexual is an identity thing. But a trans woman, a trans guy, can be attracted by the same sex that they think they are, or other sex they think they are, or they feel. It's not think, it's feel. They feel they are, or both. So a transsexual can be homosexual, heterosexual, or bisexual, and can be fluid on it. So this is very different, the difference between conditions. So what is the intersex? Intersex is a general term used for a variety of conditions in which a person is born with a reproductive or sexual anatomy that doesn't seem to fit the typical definitions of female or male. So it's a biological thing that has psychological consequences. Always, frequently is ignored on the label of the LGBTQEI community. We commonly see the lesbians, the gay, the bisexual, the transgender people, but the Q and the I are commonly excluded because people do not take into account. So, intersex can be divided into 4 categories. The 46 chromosomes with the 2 sexual chromosomes, XX intersex, which means that it's a female, a biological person, but with a male or with male genitals or genitals that seems to be male. The 46 XY intersex, biological male persons with ambiguous genitals or genitals that seems to be feminine. And the true gonadal intersex are those who have the testicles and the ovarian tissue on the same person. It can be on the same place as ovotestis, for example. They are both tissues are on the testicle, or it can be separated. And the intersex complex or indeterminate are those who have different numbers of chromosomes, especially the sexual chromosomes. For example, those who have 45 pairs of chromosomes with just one X chromosome, or they have more than two sexual chromosomes, the 47 chromosomes with XXY, for example. These are called the intersex complex or underdeterminate. So these are biological conditions with a psychological reflex. These people used to be operated in the early age, which is a complaint of the intersex community nowadays, because they say that nobody can establish what kind of gender they must have in accordance of just the sexual organs. So they claim that people have the right to announce their own gender and to confirm their body later on in accordance to what they really feel they are, and not have this defined by doctors or so on. This is a very non-intersexual in Brazil woman, and a very the term in Portuguese lacks me. Now I'm trying to discover the term in Portuguese. It's just very, okay? So, yeah, yes, and she gave a very important interview that was published this week about the intersex conditions, and I took her picture and showed her experience, because she said that she has suffered a lot with bullying during the school, because her father tried to make her a boy in accordance to her genital, but she always feel herself as a female, as a woman, and only after a big struggle, she found a way to be what she feel she is. And what was a surprise for me was the point of the interview that she said, I only felt welcome and I only received consolation in Spiritism. So she said, I have been to many places, and only the Spiritists and the Buddhists give me attention, because they could separate what is transsexuality, homosexuality, and I thought to myself, oh, thanks God she went to the right place. Not the right place in as a Spiritism, but the right place as a Spiritist center. Because we have seen many people that have had the opposite experience, because the Spiritist movement are as human as any other religious movement. So here we have a synthesis, the genderbread person. So, yeah, the identity is something psychic. The orientation is the affection and the sexual attraction. The sex is biological, can be male, female, or ambiguous. And the expression is how we express our gender. And this can be very mixed. That's the whole conception. So, you can be a man, a woman, or a gender queer, between both or both at the same times. The gender expression can be masculine, feminine, or androgynous. The biological sex can be male, female, or intersex. And the sexual orientation can be homosexual, bisexual, or heterosexual. That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, that's what Sheri told us about it. Yeah. So, let's talk a little bit about transsexuality. So, transsexuality has been changed concepts over time. Since last year, transsexuality was considered a psychiatric disorder and had a psychiatric definition. That's what bothers people trans, because they do not accept to be defined as a psychiatric condition without anything wrong with them, without something to be given to them, and with the condition to view a doctor or a psychologist to be accepted to have the rights, for example, access to medical treatments or so on. So the trans community have been fighting to change this concept, and we are into a time of change. As homosexuality has changed its definition on the 70s due to American pressure of gay community on APA, American Psychiatric Association, Psychological Association. Nowadays, the trans definition it's going to change a lot. So, for example, in the how I say in English, the diagnostic
statistic manual of mental disorders.
Yeah.
That.
Exactly. On that, which was presented last year, the trans was not defined anymore as an identity disorder, to be only considered a gender dysphoria, a suffering from feeling that you do not behave to that biological sex that to that gender that you have been given. This international classification of disease that's going to be presented in 2017 or 2018, it has already changed a lot this date. It's going to also change this definition. So we are in a time of changing. Transgender people are not mentally ill. This is definitely true. It's not a disorder. It's a condition. And as a condition, we need to get to understand and to provide people access to health care and social rights, as the gay community also deserve and has been struggling for. So stop the pathologization of transgender people. So what are the challenges nowadays, and what are people fighting to? To social recognition and social name, to have the right to use the social name, and this is a right that has been given to these people, and we really need to call people the name that they choose for them, and the gender that they express, not those that we choose for them. I remember once I was at the health center where I worked as a family community physician, and I had a medical file, and I have a medical file in my hand with a masculine name, and I looked to the people that were there. There was a woman, there was a trans people, and I think another man upside there. And then I called the masculine name. Nobody answered. I looked to the man didn't come. And the trans started to help me looking for, where is it? And we stood for some time, and then I realized it, and I asked her, what's her name? And so she gave me a feminine name, and I said to her, and in your documents is it still a masculine name? And she said, yes. And is it this? Yes. And so I said to her, I'm so sorry. So you called, and she gave me her name, and so it was a very good relationship. But in many situations, people have not the right to receive a treatment like this, to be accepted, to be respected, and to use, for example, the bathroom. It's a fight, because, here too. So here is the symbols for gender-neutral bathroom or we don't care bathroom.
Right?
Yeah, right. Because people are very gender fixed, and they are afraid of being assaulted by something inside of the bathroom. It's a lot of prejudice that we should help to change. The access to jobs and opportunities are a big problem. We also see many transvestite people, mainly in Brazil, being prostitutes, and it's also a prejudice inside our society. People always say, oh, but a transvestite is always a prostitute. When I wrote my book, I started talking with trans people, and when I heard their stories, I thought to myself, oh my God, with such a difficult story like that, it's almost impossible to have another destiny different from this that we have seen in our society. Well, once trans people told me, "Oh, I have been bullied all my bullied all my life. I could not even study at my school because I did not feel comfortable. I have never been given an opportunity to work. My family never accepted me." And so I thought to myself, if I was in this condition, if I have lived a life like this, how would I behave? It's a hypocrisy to look to others having our own experience as reference of the world. So people, trans, has not the same rights in our society, and they deserve, they are normal, they should have it. So access to job and opportunity is a very good, it's a very strong difficulty. So the transition, it's a desire for some transsexuals. I use it to think that all transsexuals wanted to change their body, but now, studying more, I realized that not all the transsexuals want to change their body. Some does not want because it's not a need for them, and some does not want because all the surgeries are not in a point of safety or sophistication to provide them what they really want or they really expect from this intervention.
It's too new.
It's too new, exactly.
New, so they don't have all the tools yet to make it perfect.
Yes, exactly. Till some years ago, it was called a test surgical.
Right.
It was all already in tests. It was not something that people had the skill to do it. And nowadays, for example, in Brazil, people that are trans and have 2 years of medical and psychological treatment. I could not say treatment. Follow-up, exactly. They can ask the public system to have the surgery, but only five places in Brazil do it, and we have a line of 10 years. Wow. So people have to wait 10 years to have this opportunity. So this is not actually available. It's so expensive, people do not have access on it. So some want a transition, some does not want, some have access, some doesn't. And the transition can be different from many people. Some want just to make the upper modification of the body, for example, from female to male, want just to remove the breasts. Some want all the transformation, some want to take the hormone therapy and make this. This is a trans guy that had.
So it was a girl and now it's a
Yes, trans guy means a female to male guy. That is called a trans man, and it's a man. A man is not someone that has born into a masculine body. This is also a man, but we have many types of men, and these are also men. So people used to take hormonal therapy from the teenager. When the boy or girl arrives to reach the adolescence and the puberty, and start the puberty at a stage that we call tenor 2, which the second stage of transformation of the body, when there is a release of LH and FSH hormones. So they took this block hormones to block the puberty and the body transformations. But the psychological care can be offered from the very beginning, when a child manifests that he or she feels that they are from the other gender. The sexual harassment? Harassment is just made when people have opportunity and want to do. So the transition is different from many people. Here you have a very good opportunity to understand about trans people. This is a trans man from Brazil, actually a friend of mine, which is John W. Neri, a very good person and an activist of the trans community. He was the first one to have surgical assessment in Brazil in a time, surgery, in a time that this was considered to be a mutilation. So his doctor was persecuted by mutilation and so on. And this is a very good book. We call it The Lonely Trip, Memories of a Transsexual 30 years after. So I suggest this to understand. This is it's Thomas B.D. Thomas B.D. is a trans man, and here you can see some challenges of the transition. For example, he had the breast surgery, but he did not take off the ovaries and the uterus.
Right.
And he married a woman that was sterile. And so they made an insemination with a semen donated by a bank, and with I don't know who donated the ovules. The eggs, but they use his uterus. So it was a trans man pregnant. Yes, so this is a man pregnant. So if you thought that a man could not be pregnant, so you must change your mind. You must make your mind, you know. So he had 3 babies. Here you see 2. He had many pregnancies, and this is a very new couple made by a trans man, a heterosexual, a cis man, cis woman. I don't know exactly what are her sexual orientation, and I don't care. That is not important. And this family. So this is a very interesting. This is a very normal couple. They already got divorced.
Very normal.
That means they are very normal couple. Yes, Fred.
So does that make her technically a heterosexual woman in this case?
Yes, exactly. He a heterosexual relationship.
Or her orientation?
She needs to identify that.
Huh?
Only she identifies that.
No, he's asking about the trans.
No, the wife.
The wife.
Yeah.
Only her can say that. We don't know if she have a heterosexual attraction, a bisexual attraction, you know. But this is a heterosexual relationship because he feels he is man. In spite of the body he was born, he feels himself as a man, and him as a man is attracted by a woman. So this is considered a heterosexual relationship. You know, the research says that the vast majority of transsexual people are heterosexual. and not homosexual as many people used to think. So let's think about all the situation through our Spiritist principles. So the Spiritist principles are based on reincarnation, the concept that we come many times as a spirit, where evolves through our path into the material, as the same as a grain evolves inside of the earth. It receives the water and the chemic that it needs to evolve and to manifest it on nature, as the same way we reincarnate to develop ourselves and to manifest our inner being, which is always divine. So the spirit is an immortal soul. We are immortal souls. We are not bodies that have souls. We are souls that are into the bodies. And we are conducted by divine laws, one of each cause and effect, which is a very important one to understand some things behind the scenes in this field. And we understand ourselves as spirits, son of God. So in the question 202, the Spirits book, we have Allan Kardec questioning the spirits. When spirits, do we have a preference as to whether we will incarnate into a male or female body? So here we have a very interesting concept of Kardec. He considered the body as the definition of gender, because this was the understanding of time, and it is still the understanding of the vast majority of our society, in spite things have been changed. The answer is, it matters little to the spirit. It depends on trials it must undergo. So the spirit itself doesn't have a gender. The spirit have the sexual energy, which Louis told us very good today. The sexual energy is a creative energy that we use to do everything in our life. It's the same energy we use to work, we use to play our roles, we use to have our sexual exchange, and so on. Sexual energy is a creative force of the spirit. So, Emmanuel and Andrei Luiz have some considerations about inversive conditions. But before, I want to say that any conditions that we live while we are incarnate are opportunities to evolve. Some of them are tests that we have chosen. Some of them are tests that we have been given. Some of them are only conditions that we create through our incarnations, and the law of cause effect brings to us as a natural consequence of our free will. Some of them are choices, some of them are conditions that happens while we are incarnated. So, when a people have an opportunity to evolve through differences, there is always an invitation for this spirit to progress and to have a more open and bigger concept of life, and also to give others opportunity to have, no matter what kind of difference we are talking about. It can be a body difference, it can be a psychological difference, it can be a mental disorder, it can be a sexual orientation, it can be a gender manifestation. The diversity is a natural law, and the diversity is the richness of life. We receive so much from diversity. So, Emmanuel and Andrei Luiz says these inversive conditions in reference to homosexual conditions. We have so few direct reference to intersex conditions or transsexual conditions in our Spiritist literature. So it was quite difficult to find something that with a profound definition. But we have this test by Emmanuel, given by Emmanuel in the chapter 21 of this amazing book, Life and Sex. And here it said, the man who abused the sexual faculties, ruining other people's life with the destruction of many homes and construction unions, in many cases
is driving to seek a new position of rebirth in a morphologically female body, and will learn, as if under a prison system, to readjust his own feelings, as well as the woman who acted similarly is driving to reincarnate in a morphologically male body with the same purpose. It's a very strong test. So, he's saying that when we discarnate, we face the consequence of our own choices. So when a person abuses of the affective conditions, it perceives the reflections on themselves and on others. And many times the spirit asks to come back into the situation of difficulties to learn to respect that affection, that body, that condition. This is a test. So he used this expression, prison system, which means that people do not feel comfortable in that situation. This is a test that refers to homosexuality, but for me, this definition refers much more to trans definitions than to homosexual definitions. Why? Because the homosexual people, the majority of homosexual people, are not people with gender dysphoria. They do not feel uncomfortable with their own gender. So it's not a feeling of prison system. Who really feel imprisoned are those who do not feel comfortable in their body and want to change that in order to feel good, in order to accept themselves or to express what they really are. So what I take from this statement is that when a spirit reincarnates into a condition that is a challenging condition for acceptance or for expression of the gender of the sexual orientation, is an opportunity for that spirit to construct respect from himself, for affection, and for others. And that seems to me very reasonable, because as homosexual, for example, I have passed for a large time of homophobia, internalized homophobia, and to accept myself, for example, it was quite difficult. I tried my best to be a heterosexual and to adapt myself to what my fathers wanted from me and what I learned to expect from me as well. And this struggle, it's a self-esteem construction that helps the spirit to build a large respect and sense of value for his own sexual orientation or for affectivity. When we face these difficulties, we have to think about our right to have relationships, to be ourselves, to express ourselves. We have to deal with the social acceptance or not. So all this struggle, it's an opportunity for the spirit to grow. Even if these situations are the same, that can drive people into mental disorder if has not a good coping with coping system, coping with all this situation. So that's something that we need to think about it. So I take it from this that this condition is a pedagogical condition of life. This does not seem that people does not have the right to be themselves, or do not have the right to have a sexual or affective relationship or so on, because sometimes we see this interpretation in our Spiritist movement, and this is a very aggressive interpretation, very disrespectful interpretation, because it does not give to people their natural rights in life, you know? So we have an action-reaction, the same thing. Andrei said, when a man tyrannizes a woman, stealing her rights and committing abuses in the name of his superiority, he disorganizes himself to the point that, unconscious and unbalanced, he is driven by agents of the divine law to a painful rebirth in the body of a woman, so that in extreme intimate discomfort, he learns to worship from within a woman, his sister and partner, daughter and mother before God. Also a very strong statement. But when we see this definition, it seems to us that talks about transsexuality much more than homosexuality. Because someone that is driven to a reincarnation in a body that's not in tune with its psychic condition and have a painful relationship to it, there's not the condition of homosexuals. Many homosexuals accept themselves from the very beginning, were accepted by family that did not struggle with acceptance. Even those are few, but there's no identity issues with homosexuals. So the same situation with the woman. So here is the only straight quotation about intersex condition in the book Sex and Destiny. After Neves, so Andrei is telling, is making the narrative. After Neves, one of the participants of the meeting, formulated a query about homosexuals. Instructor Felix showed that innumerable spirits reincarnate in many reversed conditions, be it in the field of struggles of atonement or in obedience to specific tasks that required harsh discipline by those who request or accept them. He also indicated that men and women can be born homosexual or intersexual, a being who has organs of both sex or indefinite sex, as they are likely to take the physical body in the condition of being mutilated or inhibited in certain fields of manifestations, adding that the soul reincarnates in this or that circumstance to improve and perfect itself and never under the destination of evil, which compels us to recognize that crimes, whatever they are, in any position, run on our own behalf. That means we are all equal, we all have the same rights, and we are all under the same divine laws and the divine rules. But he said here that the intersex conditions, for example, it's a struggle for the spirit that can be connected to many different situations. And in this spiritual field, we don't have a receipt. Receita? Recipe. A recipe. We don't have a recipe for things. We don't say intersex is this, homosexual is that, transsexual is that. No, we have many different things. We have the diversity even here and the spiritual history of someone. So the intersex condition, for example, can be led to a many number of spiritual different situations on the past of that person, you know. But again, we can see that as a pedagogical and an invitation for the construction of something inside of that spirit. It's a task. It's a test. It's an opportunity, much more than task than test, an opportunity to grow. But when we face the intersex condition, transsexual condition, we face suffering, because these are conditions that comes with suffering. People that have to deal with different genitals or different acceptation, different sense of gender. We have a suffering in this condition. But suffering are not the purpose. Suffering are the consequence of such situation. The purpose is the progress, is to evolve, is to love themselves, is to love others, is to be respectful to itself and to others. So we have to think about transgender people and religion. I want to ask you, how many trans people have you seen inside of the Spiritist Center so far? We have few.
No.
As I travel around the world, I have seen some, but they are few. And it's a very interesting thing because some trans people, when they have the transition, they do not want to be considered as trans. They want to be cisgender. They want to live as cisgender. So, for example, I asked some transsexual, spiritist transsexual people to help me with this lecture, and I didn't have answered. Because some of them does not want to consider themselves as a transsexual, want to talk about this situation, not even have they are not used to do so. So I have met some transsexuals in Italy that have changed, for example, their biological sex, and they have reconstructed their life. They change places, they change cities, they start a new family without anyone knowing that they have been transsexual people or they have had a transition. So, we have to welcome trans people in our community, inside of the Spiritist movement. And we have to do this by going through them. We have to look for them. We have to say, you are welcome here. We know that you do not feel comfortable in many religious places, but here you can be yourself and you are accepted. Because here we don't care about gender, about sexual orientation, about identity. We care about the soul. We care about the Son of God, and all of us are Son of God. We must look for these people, to welcome them, to receive them, in order for them to have a place to express, to study. What impressed me most when I wrote this book was the mails I received from the point I present the book, with people telling me that they now could feel welcomed in the Spiritist Center. Now they could feel loved by God. And once I asked a homosexual guy, why did you feel loved by God? And he told me, because I went to a Spiritist Center and I talked to a director, and he gave me such difficult interpretation, such hard interpretation about homosexuality, and so I left. Yes, I left the Spiritist movement. I left the spirituality. I did not feel aimed by God. So this is very important thing. We must face that. We will have a panel at the end of the day. We can talk later more about that. But this is something that we need. We need to go through to look for the trans community and to say to trans community, you are welcome here. You can come. Because our spirit centers are centers for education of the soul. Mm-hmm. And the soul has no gender. The soul has no sex. We are spirit, son of God, all of us. No matter the expression we have, and all the expression are respectable. All the expression are divine. So once I saw, no, I'll tell this later. So transgender people and family have to understand also that nobody reincarnates into a family without a purpose, right, without a spiritual meaning. So here we have this very good experience here from United States. This is a family with a trans boy. This boy from the age 2, he was born actually deaf. And so after some time they made a surgery. He started hearing, and he learned how to talk. And his parents says, from the point he started to talk, the first thing he said is, I'm a boy. And he has always felt the desire to be treated as a boy. And once he said to his mother, "I will wait you to die for me to cut my hair." And at that point, his mother noted that he was in such big suffering. And so she started studying, and so she understood that he is a trans boy, and started dealing with it. And they wrote this book, Raising Ryland, our story of parenting a transgender child with no strings attached. And this is a very good example of family that were supportive, that were loved, and they really did, and they are doing actually all they can to allow this boy to be himself and not to struggle with the difficulties these people used to do. Almost 50% of the trans people try to commit suicide until the age 20. When this mother saw this number, she told herself, "I do not want my child to commit suicide. I do not want my child to try to kill himself. I want my child to live in such a good environment, to be accepted by us and by many others." So they start doing all a work into the family and with themselves to accept it. That's the role of the family. The role of the family is to be supportive, is to help people to be themselves, is to give love. It's not to exclude. The 26% of the homosexuals that tell them their parents that they are homosexuals are excluded from home, are excluded from affection, go to drugs, go to prostitution, go to many destructive behavior because they do not have the acceptance or the support of their loves. The research shows that people from the LGBTQE community makes closer ties with friends than to family, because they are more accepted, they feel more comfortable with friends than with family. So we gotta change that. We gotta think about our whole as society, our whole as family, as a reincarnated people to struggle with this. Emmanuel says, in their life and sex, humanity will gradually learn to understand that the concepts of normality and abnormality fall short in the case of morphological signs alone, and may rise up as more sublime agents of definitions of human dignity, since individuality itself either intensifies community life through their behaviors in support of the common good, or depress it for the evil that it causes together with the role it plays in the game of delinquence. This is a very powerful statement. Normality and abnormality is to be in tune or not with the good, no matter what of the gender, of the sexual orientation, of the expression of the gender we have. Normality and abnormality, in a spiritist perspective, is to express the Son of God that each one of us are. And that's the most important thing to understand. All of us come and reincarnated to promote good for ourselves and for our society, to play our roles in the game of good constructions, to play what we have been programmed to perform. So that's what we are supposed to do. That's why Jesus is our moral reference, because he was the one that accepted everyone, the most inclusive one. In his field, all of us are welcome, and that's true for all the trans community. All the trans people are natural people. I would not say normal people, because normal is the normative things, and none of us are normal. Normative things change all the time. Yes, no. If you see close, none is really normal. Yes, Caetano said that.
If we're normal, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah. So we are son of God, as a son of God, we need to take our heart into this place. The place that we feel welcomed by Jesus, by the good spirits, by all this love society that support us and give us strength and opportunity to do what we need to do, what we are expect to do, what we came to do, no matter our gender, our sexual orientation, our expression, our biological sex. That, I think, is the most important thing I would like to share with you. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Thank you, Andrei. That was phenomenal. I must say that the story of the family at the end brought tears in my eyes.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you don't have to be homosexual or anything. I mean, we all struggle with the issues of acceptance. We all feel from time to time inadequate. We all feel like we don't fit. Regardless, it's not a sexual orientation issue, it's a human issue.
Yeah.
So when you look at a story of parents who embrace the child in that way, you like really hit deep inside me, and you relate to the story in such a deep level. I want to thank the 3 speakers of this morning for the wonderful job. Thank you so much for being here with us. We're running a little behind schedule. I know you're all hungry. So I want to ask you if you would like to open for 15-20 minutes of questions and answers with the speakers, or if you just want to go and eat. We may not have time in the afternoon, so does anyone wants to place any questions right now to any of the speakers?
I have a question to Andrei.
A question to Andrei? So
Yes.
Andrei?
Okay, so
Let's
repeat
I will pass the question to Sheri.
I don't know. I'm not sure how relevant it will be, but when you were saying about, right at the end, about the transsexuals, and you said it can be people like this, like that, I have a question. I always, because I met one, after, how you call it? I lost the name. People who are born with both sex.
Intersex.
Yeah, no, but there is a name, an old name.
Hermaphrodite.
Hermaphrodite, that's it.
It's not used anymore this time.
Thank you,
Yeah.
I did not know.
That's why I didn't
You
see
didn't
it.
see.
Yeah.
And I had a friend like that when I was in my 20s, and his parents forced him to be a boy because he can choose the sex when he's a baby. And it turned out that he was a girl.
Yeah.
And he suffered a lot because of it.
Yeah,
bullying.
that's exactly the point with Dione. She said, when we have the surgeries given when the people is born, this cannot lead to their psychic condition.
Right.
So
They
it
cannot
can be a path of suffering. So the intersex community nowadays claim for regulation on this field, so they can wait till a point where the gender is defined and where the expression of gender is clear, in order for the intersex people to decide if they want or not that intervention in their body in accordance of their possibilities and the other things. Because a person can not
As a baby, they can
want,
choose.
for example, an intervention of
That's wonderful
body.
because he suffered a lot.
yeah.
I
So
mean,
it's a source. It's a source of gender dysphoria.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
I have a question for Andrei.
Okay.
What this child that's born as let's say, as a boy with male organs and then decides to be a girl, when he gets to about 13, 14 years old, whatever it is, and then we decide to help him and block hormones and give him different hormones and all that. Is there any medical repercussions in that? I mean,
Yes.
is that a problem of the body with that?
This is the recent discussion. Hello. What? It was me? Maybe. Okay. Sorry. So he asked me if this trans boy or trans girl that defines as different gender, if he or she gets the adolescence and start to receive hormonal block therapy, is there any medical consequence of it? Yes, there is, and there is a field of discussion nowadays. How early people can receive an intervention. So the definition of the American Endocrinology Society is to start when is the 32 stage of sexual development. What happens between 9 and 11 years old? It depends on the boy and on the girl. And after pass through a point of strong definition of the trans situation or the trans condition or the real identity of the people. I had an experience with that, very interesting, because we have kids with gender dysphoria, with identification with other sex, especially because of this binary gender establishment, that are not real trans people. And when they get older, this dysphoria disappears. So I have today one very close friend of mine, which is a psychologist, and I met her when she called me some years ago, because she saw a lecture, and she told me, Andrei, my daughter says that she is a boy, and she wants to be called with a boy name. I'm a psychologist, I'm acceptable with my daughter, I love her, she's adopted, and I want to give her the best opportunity to grow in a safe and healthy environment. So she asked me, do you think I have to start the hormonal therapy? And so I said, and the girl was 7 years old, 6 or 7 years old. And so I said to her, no, wait a little bit. You have to let her grow and establish this a little bit, because there's a definition to where is the time to start the hormonal block therapy. But you can treat her as the way she wants to be treated, so you can allow herself to use men's clothes or to express the gender as she wants or as he wants. I start to say the masculine pronoun. We need to use the pronoun which the person feels that the gender are, which is very difficult. When I'm saying, I confuse many times. And okay, she starts to call it her daughter. At that point, she thought it was her son, with a masculine pronoun, with a masculine name, allow the girl to be. And then, when she got 7 to 8 years old, she completely changed. She started to want to be called the feminine pronoun, the feminine name, and so on. So today the point is exactly that: is to redefine what level of gender dysphoria is, to have psychologists a follow up, not because this is a disorder, but because we have to give people the condition to understand what really is going on, and we have the definitions of the medical establishment to when to start the hormonal therapy or not. But one discussion is exactly for those who really need the hormonal block therapy, which is going to be the consequence with a long time. And this is not quite well determined.
Did you mean emotional or physical, like side effects?
Physical.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So you meant side effects for the hormonal
Yeah,
therapy.
that's what I said. That's
yeah,
not.
there's
It's
not
not
clear.
already established because we do not have time to see what will be the consequence. João W. Neres, he describes many side effects he needs to face. He used the hormonal therapy not at the adolescence, but when he was already an adult. And yes, there is. As many other conditions that we need. For example, women that are in the menopause and want to and need to get hormones also have side effects and consequences. Women that use hormones to the anticonception has many side effects, has many dangers, including the risk of embolism and so on. So whenever we take drugs, medical drugs, we have side effects.
Yeah.
Gender is something that's so strong within ourselves that
Is the question for Sheri?
Yes.
No, for you.
I found it.
So strong within ourselves that
No, repeat, please.
Okay, gender is something so strong within ourselves that even when it is incarnate, our perispirits is the perception of our last incarnation.
Yes.
Like I'll see myself as I am right now. So my question is,
It can be or not.
Yeah.
That's the
yeah,
point.
so when there's a transgender, like a trans man or trans woman,
Is there a
how
consequence for the
he or she will
perispirit?
perceive him or herself?
Okay, that's a good question.
As a perispirit?
Yeah, I'm not going to answer the question. We'll let Andrei answer the question. But you know that's one of the biggest questions that I ask myself. When I discarnate, what am I going to be? I struggle with that daily. Because I don't know if I like being more on the gender or on the female gender or on the male gender. I know I had many lives as a man. Do you have any doubt about that? No. Okay, so I'm not quite sure. What would I prefer? You know what I mean? So it does not mean that because I am in a female body right now, when I discarnate, I'm going to identify my periods. It doesn't matter. I don't know. I don't know. Why do I worry about that, right? We must define something, no?
I want to say we're worried about it because gender is embodied. It's preoccupying. It's preoccupying. It's within the male, female body. You're in the binary.
I'm in the binary.
Very
I'm trying to get out of it.
Yeah, you're not queer.
I'm trying to
You're
get
not
out of
queer.
the androgynous side of life.
Yeah. You think you are queer, but you're not. You are in the binary.
I'll let the labeling for
What's
you.
a binary?
Okay.
What's a
Binary is male, female, the gender.
I too.
A moment, let me answer her. So she asked if someone defines as transsexual, for example, and thinks the other gender, how it's going to be at the spiritual realm when it disincarnates, isn't it? So, what defines the form of our astral body, of our perispirit, is the mental body. So it's what we think about ourselves that defines. So a person who feels themselves as a man, they naturally will have a masculine body, or a body that expresses the gender, or can be a different expression of gender, you know. But I think that one person that is transsexual really is transsexual when this person leaves the body, for example, during the
sleeping?
Desdobramento, como é que chama? Desdobramento.
Out of the body.
When people have out-of-body experiences during the night, so I think that these people have the expression of their psychic and not the expression of their material body, because it's not the material body that defines, it's the expression of the mental body. So André Luiz tells an example of this in the book Liberation. He describes a woman which is a very beautiful and rich woman of the society, always with a good appearance, but when she leaves the body during the night, her appearance is like the witch, is like a witch. She is as terrible as the witch of our mythology, because her mental body was such concentrate on evil things that she produced an astral body disturbed by her psychic. So our astral body is the consequence of what we think about ourselves. Okay?
All right, one more question. Anyone?
The
No,
camera.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, the thing is that, like, the spirit itself has no sex, right?
Yeah.
Then the sexual orientation is what the person is attracted to,
Yeah.
right? And so then so then the actual definition of what you are as a man or as a woman is your genitalia, right?
No.
No?
No, it's exactly the opposite. It's not the body that defines your gender. It's your social construction that defines your gender. It's what you think, what you feel about yourself, what you express that construct your gender. So male or female are social constructions. The biological sex plays a role in this field, but not defines. So a man can be born biologically woman, but he feels himself as a man and it's a trans man. Or it can be a biological man with a different identity. For example, it can feel that he is a male, female, both or neither. So this is the queer concept. So the concept of gender is not defined only by sex, and that's I think one of the most important things to get to know. For example, from one argument that we heard a lot about homosexuality is if someone is born male, so he should live as a male. So he should love a woman, he should marry and establish a family. So this is a very strict concept of gender. So if someone is biologically male and the behavior of a male is this behavior that is Western established for a male because it's different on the Eastern society, isn't it? So this is the concept that our society is under construction and under renovation. It's what the LGBTQE community is fighting to change and has a good experience sharing this things. That's what Sheri told us about. Do you want to say something? Yeah? Yes, you want.
Just that, I think that question speaks to how we organize in our psyches social relations and individual identities. So that, yes, sexual orientation and gender are, they're not the same, but sexual orientation involves gender, right? Because the definition of sexual orientation is what gender you're attracted to. So it's very much psychically interwoven in different ways. And so it's not that there aren't connections.
By the biological.
Exactly. But I think that sometimes there are certain questions that come from the entanglement of it, kind of along the lines of the history.
No, the thing is that I think Time in last week has an article about a man who was pregnant. And so, but like in my mind,
it's a trans man.
Yeah, it's a trans man, but then he's not a man because he has a womb. He has a man cannot have a child.
Why not?
Naturally,
Because he
no.
doesn't have the physical,
Yes,
biological
it can have it.
conditions to have.
He can have it. That's the point. The masculinity is not defined. The male gender is not defined only by biological signs. So we have some men that were not born men, biologically men. They were born like women, but the gender is defined by biologically integrated to psychic. And so it's the psychic identity that shows what is the real sex of that person. So to be a man, it's not to have a masculine body, it's to feel that you are a man. So the trans men that have the masculine identity, they are men as well. So yes, we can have men with uterus. Yes, we can have men with vagina. For example, if a trans man has not changed, has not made his transition, yes, we can have a man with uterus, a man with vagina, a man with breast, for example. And these.
But all of this is made up through medicines and all. But a man's body, physical in this planet, is impossible to be pregnant. Only a woman who is transgender into a man. Yes, then the man.
Yeah.
But it's not a
So
real
you see,
man.
the difficult.
Yeah.
So this is the struggle of the trans community, is to be accepted as man and as a woman in spite of the biological sex they were born. So that's the most important concept to get to know. A man and a woman is not defined by the biological. So when we say no, you can never have a man pregnant, you are defining that a man is defined by the biological sex, and it's not. That's the question. That's the point that we want to present today, because it's what we have in our society. So yes, we can have a trans man is not less man than a man that was born in a biological male body. You know?
No, I understand.
Let me just, we're not going to have more time right now because I really don't want to run behind too much. But we can continue to talk. We have like 45 minutes now to read. We can talk, we can consult with each other. I think the panel at the end, we're going to have more time. I think one thing that it's important for us to, just summarizing, is what they are talking about is they're talking about the definition of the identity of male or female as an immortal spirit. So what defines the male or female is not the biological body. Stay with me for another minute, please. So it's not the biological body. The world, our society, and that's what's so difficult for us to understand, is that from the material perspective, gender is defined heavily by the biological presentation. But material is not real. It's temporary. It's a clothing. So the true gender identity resides on the mind, on the psychic, on the spirit. So you can be in a female body, but your true identity is male, because the spirit identifies itself with its experiences. And what we are challenging here is, are we going, as we move forward into the era of spirit, in the era of regeneration, are we going to continue to define our lives, our sexuality, and our values by the material paradigm or by the spiritual paradigm? Have a good lunch. There's no binary for him, he's wholesome. use hope. But it's really difficult, like struggling to follow them. Yeah, it is difficult. No, the little yeah, absolutely. And even if you want to use it, you just explain to other
Eu tô com essa roupa de avião, 6 da manhã. Olhinho no meu celular.
No, that's fine. What's your name? Porque você vê a pessoa fora do contexto, você vê a pessoa fora do contexto e fala assim, não, que bom.
Aí eu tava pensando, aí eu
você vê a pessoa fora do contexto.
Eu fui pro banheiro também.
Eu vejo muito fora isso.
A minha preocupação foi uma criança muito cigarro, ontem,
Aí eu peguei, eu tava
so much for being here.
Eu sempre ganho spots na frente.
Oh, wow.
Mas ele é mais velho. Não, mas eu vejo muito mais porque ele se apaixona
Então eles estão se apaixonando pela pessoa.
Why do all those things not understand?
That's why there is already by yes. You're talking about this which makes sense. So they are to say, trying to educate these people.
Não, com certeza. Esse faz programa de encarnações, né? Mas leva os espíritos, porque senão cada vez os espíritos que já passaram por muitas situações, com a evolução vai acontecendo nesse mundo. Agora, uma das características da Terra é essa enorme diferença de condições de awareness. Então, o que faz da Terra uma escola muito produtiva, porque no lidar com as diferenças a gente tem as chances de praticar a compaixão, a empatia, o entendimento, a paciência, a fé, né? De que as coisas vão chegar no seu tempo certo, que a gente não tem controle do progresso, mas que Deus está no controle. Então, essa diversidade de estados de consciência é muito rica para nós. Na medida que a gente vai evoluindo, aí
o famoso Andrei.
Aí as sociedades vão ficando mais homogêneas com a evolução. Fala com ele.
Que bom, coisa boa.
Olha aqui.
Busquei lá dentro buscar a foto de vocês. Aqui é meu telefone, que eu tô tirando várias fotos. Vai, Iracema, que eu sei que você quer entrar na foto. Você sempre quer entrar na foto.
Vai na sua praia, você na nossa.
Entra aí, Kate.
Imagina se tivesse preparado, foi muito bom.
Nossa, eu estava louca pra vir. Ontem eu fui no festival de cinema.
Eu fico cansada só de ver tudo que você fala. É porque esses dias do lado.
Agora a gente tem things a little bit like this pra mim,
Sou completamente notivo. Eu fico acordado até 4h30 feliz da vida, cara.
Você não dorme.
Você dorme poucas horas.
Não, ele é muito elétrico.
Eu preciso, mas se você perguntar assim, o que você gostaria, o que seu corpo precisa, é de dormir muito. Eu gostaria de passar a manhã inteira dormindo.
É uma coisa que a gente precisa ter. A cabeça
Isso aí é adaptado. Mas eu não tenho muitas horas para dormir, então meu corpo se adaptou a isso.
Não é bom de cama como eu sou.
Eu tive que passar por uma disciplina. Se você começar a tomar melatonina, você também. Só toma melatonina mais cedo.
Quantos miligramas?
Não, de 8, 9 horas, você vai começar a ter mais sono mais rápido, aí você termina de dormir e acorda mais cedo.
você quer dizer pra ir dormir mais cedo?
Vai dormir mais cedo.
Mas ela não quer.
Porque assim, eu tenho os meus filhos.
Entendi. O tempo que você fica pra você é a madrugada.
É com os filhos. Né? E aí, das 10 em diante, é quando eu faço isso. Gente, tá.
That teacher, it's not like she wasn't saying that like it's just like that's the way she was raised. Oh, she was so she's just like teacher.
It's very That's why she did a psychoanalysis.
Yeah. No, but
Peraí, vem. Deixa eu tirar.
eu acho que eu tô realmente. Ah, não, eu tô acho que é
Calor, aí eu boto frio, eu tô com calor, aí desliga. Você pegou? Ele sempre.
So, it's like, we treat this thing, we treat it as a real but the language and all of that
languages, English, Spanish, Portuguese, that kind of thing, like, I have this, like, yeah, when you speak more than one language, there are like words that they don't exist in the other language. And you're like, your mind expands to go that way. You can kind of like put a new
Another nuance. Yeah. Right.
I'm improvising.
Very unique, and therefore it seems like our invisible to the other, right? No,
they're sacred, but at the same time they're like an outcast or a son, or that was something that I
Você quer sentar aqui? Mandar uma...
A gente acho que eu posso pegar essa cadeira.
Se precisar, pode pôr a... É minha essa. A outra não sei.
Então faz esse favor pra mim.
Tiro aqui?
Coloca a sua bolsa aqui. Eu vou mover essas cadeiras.
Ah, você vai tirar a cadeira? Põe essa pra mim aqui, Charles. Eu vou pegar um sanduichinho. Eu pus isso aqui pra gente não perder. Mas é muito caro.
marginalization because like we are so
no, not that kind of thing.
no, I don't understand
How it can be that way.
unless that's differences in sacred or I don't know.
Ah, aquele lá, aquela resposta lá. Eu vi na Sheri.
Eu tô muito casado.
Macho não tem dormir.
A gente começou tanto de óculos dormir sentado.
Aí eu
Literalmente sentado, conversando.
Ótimo, saudade de você, hein, Sheri?
Great.
Todo mundo derramou.